everyone. I am Rebecca Stone. I'm the Senior Vice President of Revenue Marketing for Cisco. Before I introduce my esteemed panelists to talk a little bit about AI for all, I wanted to talk a little bit about the context around why we're here. Today I have the privilege to guide a discussion on a topic that I think is both important from the acronym of the hour, AI, but also from an overall thought process on how we innovate, how we work, and how we accelerate AI. By inviting many different backgrounds across ethnicity, gender, age, educational background by design, we are able to introduce better outcomes into our solutions. Today, inclusive organizations are actually 75% more likely to see ideas become productized. They're 87% more likely to make better decisions about those products and how they go to market. But in the roles, and 87% also more likely to recognize higher revenue from innovation. The case for creating diversity by design teams is clear. But in roles that are critical to advancing AI, such as STEM, gaps continue to persist. Women actually today make up only 24% of the STEM workforce globally, and minorities make up an even smaller amount, around 8 to 9% of the total STEM workforce. So our conversation today is going to be designed to unpack why and focus on how we can continue to make progress. With that, I am pleased to welcome my three panelists and invite them all to introduce themselves. Kim, why don't you go ahead and go first?
So, hi everybody, my name's Kimberly Monos and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Natilic. However, my journey to become a Chief Marketing Officer isn't the norm. I actually was a teenage mum. As a single parent, I raised a mixed race child, and it was very much defying the norm and breaking down stereotypes to be able to get where I am today.
Thank you very much. Jason.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jason Warfield. I lead the Cisco ThousandEyes solution and adoption engineering team globally. We focus on partnering with our customers on their strategic digital initiatives to ensure and provide visibility into the critical dependencies that drive digital experience. And I have a very non-traditional background. So I actually graduated from Georgetown University with an economics degree. And when I heard about this career called solutions engineering, I literally asked the person that was telling me about it, do people really get paid to do this? And basically, that really set me on a journey to figure out how to make a career transition and get into technology. And so I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for really a development program at a company called Cabletron or Prisma that was designed to bring people into the technology industry and really develop their technical skill sets and put them on a path to have a successful career.
Thank you for sharing, Jason. How about you, Zoe?
Cool. Hi, my name is Zoe Rose. I am Security Operations Manager, and I don't know, go single moms. Yeah. What do? I work in security, so inclusion and making sure that we are very clear about what we need and what we actually want to achieve is a really important part of my job. Yeah.
Great. And would you mind just sharing a little bit about what insecurity are you responsible for?
What insecurity? If something goes wrong, I'm probably the person that called. If there's phishing emails or a security event, that's who you reach out to.
Great. Perfect. All right, well, I will start with you for our first question. You are in a unique position as a female in SecOps. You've developed a specific practice to reduce bias in hiring. So what prompted you to develop those? Would you mind sharing a little bit more detail about what those look like?
Yeah, so I obviously am a lady. That's not massively common in my industry. When I started about 15 years ago, this is where you say, oh, not that, you don't look that old. And I say, thank you. There wasn't a lot of ladies. It was very difficult to get to where I am today. Thankfully that I see more women where I work now, but that wasn't the norm, and so naturally I had to develop a lot of skills when it comes to ensuring diversity in my team, because I was an example of this is not normal, so how can I make sure that other people that look like me or look even more different, how do I ensure that they get included? Because security is filling multiple gaps and we need layers, just like controls, we also need different skills and we need different mindsets, different points of view. And so the way that I developed it is I always make a conscious choice as to what I'm looking for and why I think this is the right person versus that person, because unconscious bias is just natural. We all have unconscious bias, and so we have to bring it to our conscious brain to actually make the right decisions. So I don't want to hire in my own image, and I don't want to create an not inclusive environment by only having women that look like me, for example.
Yeah.
So I have to make that conscious choice every time.
And how can you give an example of how you might be thinking about that in practice?
So in practice, so if I go to hire, I review the job description to make sure that it is inclusive. It doesn't say, you must meet these things. It says, these are the things that are nice to have. This is the goal of what I'm trying to achieve with my team. And then once the job description goes out there, when we get the CVs in, I actively work with HR so that the person isn't getting stuck at the HR check. Oh, do they meet these specific requirements? Yes or no? Okay, no, they don't get interviewed. I also review a lot of the CVs that don't traditionally come to me, and I say, is this person maybe not meeting it on paper, but actually still a good person to look at? So for example, I recently was hiring, and I looked at a lot more CVs than usual, but also some people that applied that didn't come from the background I was originally looking for. I said, well, why are they applying? So some people HR reached out to again and said, well, why are you applying? And some people I just gave them an additional opportunity to present themselves. So maybe on paper they don't look as right, but when I spoke to them, I realized this is why they applied, and actually these are the things that they could bring to my team. And then lastly, even if they don't make it through the interview process, I give feedback. So I say, well, why didn't you make it through the interview process? So that it can help you in your next time round.
Yeah, I love actually introducing the idea. You would typically, when you're working on hiring, you're looking for those resumes that fit the role, but it's a great call out to make sure that you're looking elsewhere as well. All right, Kim, I'm going to ask you, what are some other ways that Natilic is actually looking at inclusion in emerging technology roles?
So I would say at Natilic we do quite a lot to make sure that we are fully inclusive of all different backgrounds. Just to continue on from Zoe's point, we know it's kind of an average statistic, but about 50% of people actually recruit with their non-conscious bias. So 100% is really important that we do look to that, and we do make sure we do training inside Natilic to make sure that we are addressing that. So 100%, I think that is something that everybody does. But I think we do it more than in hiring. Think about yourselves when you go to like a networking event or who you look to go to actually spend time with. You will naturally be applying those things to everyday interaction, which is something to consider. But I would say specifically, some of the things we're doing at Natilic are to make sure we are working with different kind of emerging groups to get recruitment in. So at the moment, we're looking at about 30% is kind of sitting across our diversity as our current recruitment, and we have plans to make sure we are improving that. But to do that, we are working with the likes of STEMETs, which look at basically females coming into kind of those types of industries. We also work with the likes of She Can Code, who are often looking at females potentially that have been out of work, had children, and looking to come back into employment. And then we work with other companies and organizations like Generation Success, where they are sort of youths that have come from perhaps different backgrounds, slightly underprivileged, very diverse backgrounds. And we look to make sure that we are running those programs, mentoring, and then hiring from them where we possibly can to make sure it's fully inclusive. But yeah, I would say there's sort of some of the key things, but really making sure that everybody is really aware of where they're coming from a leadership perspective, to make sure they're doing everything they can to sort of address those biases and make sure we're being inclusive.
Great. Okay, so both of those answers kind of focus on how you get teams that are that are more diverse, and that will help to introduce potentially more diversity into decision-making processes. So Jason, I'm going to come to you for that. In addition to the team that you run as a SE, you are out talking to customers probably 2 to 3 times a day at least. So what are you seeing in terms of how that diversity is showing up at its best, and maybe some of the ways that there are, or maybe some of the areas for opportunity and improvement as well?
Sure. So certainly for our customers, innovation continues to be top of mind, especially as it relates to being able to leverage AI and AI-related initiatives. And as I talk to customers, one of the things I'm seeing is the customers who are having a lot of success and velocity around investments, and I'll share one example of a large global retailer who, as part of their broader return to office initiative, are investing in AI-related initiatives to essentially improve employee productivity. And there's multiple different ways they're looking to do that, but 2 of the areas they're focusing on is ensuring that the employee experience is seamless, and that's everything from entering the office to the availability of the services and tools they rely on to be productive, but also being very conscious of really delivering a better experience, which they feel will do 2 things. One, it'd improve engagement in the office and the technology, and the second, they believe it's going to drive better retention, which will over time deliver better productivity. And I think one of the reasons they're having a lot of success with this initiative is they've been very thoughtful up front in terms of the team that they've spun up, both from a development perspective and really having a very diverse team that's leading this initiative in terms of geographic diversity, functional diversity, as well as demographic diversity, but also being very thoughtful of engaging the community that they're going to actually deliver these outcomes to early in the process, and having a feedback loop that allows them to take in feedback and ultimately inform the development of that initiative. And I think just approaching these initiatives with a very, initially with an eye towards diversity, and having that be part of the plan, the strategy, the initial rollout, really helps to deliver better business outcomes. And the other thing I'll say is our customers are very conscious that these outcomes they're delivering, although they're powered by AI, ultimately tie back to both the company brand, whether that's in terms of delivering services to customers, citizens, or employees, as well as their own professional brand inside the company.
So your recommendation from what your observation is that teams actively go out to look for that diversity, not just in their hiring practices, but in how they're building the maybe interactive teams that have to work on things, and getting that feedback from the customers who might also be diverse in terms of who they're trying to outreach?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, thank you. Kim, do you have anything to add maybe to that in terms of when, from a marketing perspective, you're thinking about how, I know that you use AI in a lot of your marketing. Are you thinking about the outcomes that are delivered and how that diversity is represented if you're using AI to create content?
Yeah, so I would say definitely. So one of the things that the tools that we use as part of our team definitely allows for like a lot of diversity depending on what your backgrounds are. So I will be completely honest with you all, I do have somebody in my team that suffers with quite severe dyslexia. But by having AI tools, it enables them to write, it enables them to craft without feeling any kind of lack of confidence in their abilities. They're able to write it, they can then show it, and then they can provide it, they can proof themselves, and it really truly enables them to perhaps do tasks and roles that they wouldn't have previously felt that they were comfortable in doing themselves. And that really has kind of changed from an outcome, not only has that enabled them to be more successful, feel confidence, you can just see it in themselves, they're thriving, and it also then takes that workload off of others where they would have previously handed that over.
Yeah.
So 100%, it's helped with morale, it has helped with productivity, and it's helped just overall with kind of the whole kind of team dynamic. So yeah, AI tools for us has been phenomenal.
Great. Jason, I'm going to come back to you. We talked a little bit about the outcomes that we're trying to drive, the tools that we're using. obviously a large part about AI is also the data sets. How do you think about the data sets and how you try to eliminate bias as much as you can from the data sets?
Yeah, I think really it starts up front in terms of really sourcing a broad and diverse set of data that is representative of not just the broad and overall population, but really also the subpopulations that you're looking to deliver outcomes to. And then as part of that, really making sure that you're very thoughtful about things like bias detection and mitigation, both in the data collection process, but also as you develop the AI models and algorithms, testing the outcomes. One of the other things that's important is really establishing an ethics review board and panel up front that has diverse representation that will really help establish principles and guidelines that drive your development as you're looking to deliver these outcomes. And then really taking a very collaborative approach in terms of, in two ways. One, in terms of engaging with the community you're looking to deliver outcomes to, but also having multiple functions internally represented. So it's not just about the data scientists analyzing the data, but also having subject matter experts and really representation from different functions across the business that can really help provide a broader perspective on the development and the outcomes that you're looking to drive. And I think one of the key things also is just having transparency. Transparency into the collection of data, transparency into how that data may be transformed, and also transparency into the models and being able to really grade the models as they're being developed, as they're operationalized, and being able to screen for fairness as well as the overall performance and efficacy of those models.
Perfect, thank you so much. Zoe, I'm gonna come to you now from a security perspective. I know that we talked yesterday and you said that you're fairly new into introducing and thinking about how AI sits in the security workflows, but how do you think about how AI might help from an automated process perspective? How do those tools avoid bias that might exist?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to think about in the beginning is when you automate anything, if you don't know what you're doing and what you need, you're just going to fail, but you're failing faster. When it comes to AI, you may be failing, but worse, you don't even know, because often it's kind of more of a black box. So I think the most important thing to start with is to understand what exactly are you trying to achieve? What is it that this is going to make a difference that you can't already do yourself? If you understand the requirements, if you understand what you need, it's a lot easier to see, is the outcome actually achieving what you think you wanted or what you think you were supposed to have? When it comes to security, as you can imagine, false positives are annoying, but false negatives are dangerous because that's something that's saying, no, it's fine, but actually it's not, and you could cause a bigger issue. So I think from my perspective, knowing what you need, what your requirements are, that's where you have to start. Often teams don't know that. So if you don't know that, you can't even get to that point where you add automation or AI. Once you understand what you're trying to achieve, then that's where you can say, is the data right? Am I giving it the right data? Is it learning properly? Is the outcome meeting our requirements? One thing I really liked about last year when I was in a talk at Cisco Live is they were talking about some automation for AI for their networks and being able to know before something goes down. And the biggest thing they said is it's not 100%. And so it's only going to say, this is our prediction. We think this is going to be right. It's not, let's just add it. It works. It can automatically make the choice and it's good to go. But it's got controls in place to say, is this working? Do we have checks that are actually validating prior to making those decisions? Because one thing that Hannah Fry, she wrote a book called Hello World. One thing she mentions in her book is, for some reason, humans will question other humans, but we don't question the technology we made. And so we'll blindly trust algorithms, we'll blindly trust machine learning or AI, thinking, yeah, okay, it's accurate. But biased humans, inaccurate humans, we made it. So questioning is very important.
I think I experience that myself a ton in the data sets that I get from my team with reports, and I'm sure you probably live this too, where there's numbers and people just say, well, here's the numbers, and you're like, I'm not sure those numbers are right. I don't think that they make sense. And then making sure that you're questioning what are the data sets, where did they come from, how did you pull it, what is the methodology that you used from a modeling perspective, how does it apply to whatever it is that you are running against is very important. Like the ability to think strategically and across all, connecting all of the dots becomes an even more important skill set, I think, as we start to introduce this AI. I would love to hear, I'm going to open it up to a bit of a curveball question for all of you in terms of what are those skill sets that we need to develop in order to be not only proficient in how to use AI, but also how to start to look for bias in AI? If you have any thoughts on that, I don't know.
Well, I think from a security perspective, I always look for people that ask why. I always look for people that don't just take things as they are, they actually question where it's coming from. Don't know if that's necessarily a skill, but that's more of a mindset.
Yeah.
I mean, look at traditional hackers or people that are ethical hackers or breaking things. They're not saying, well, this is what it's meant to do, so let's do it this way. They're saying, what can I make it do for me?
Yep.
For the data, this is what it's meant to do, but what if I give you something else? What if I do something else? Like, what's going to be the impact? And I think that's really important, is having people with those mindsets on your team as well, to question everything. I was that annoying child growing up that always asked why, and people always got annoyed with me, but that's actually really important in security. And I think in these teams, it's really important as well.
I also think that it's not just necessarily the people that are using the tools that need to make sure that they're skilled up. I also think that the AI is producing material that is super smart now. So take, for example, you can now, from a marketing standpoint, you can basically take an image of an email. I could take something from Cisco. I could then put it into AI and ask it to replicate it. I can then say, right, I now want you to send it the optimal time that each individual person will open that email. What's to say, and then this is where it probably comes over to Zoe's world, what's to say that people that are, hackers or people that are sending out phishing scams can replicate like for like, so we're no longer looking for those emails that have got those typos in or anything that looks a little bit dodgy. So we need to also make sure that we are upskilling everybody to recognize that phishing emails now look genuine. And actually, we need to be more aware of what that potentially can look like, because they look real, and we are just sitting there as humans, opening up that first door and making Zoe's life a little more complex. So I think, yes, it does help us from a, especially in a marketing world and in your marketing teams. It definitely helps to speed up productivity, but it also has the impact that it can also have maybe catastrophic effects on other organizations. So just something that I think everybody should be really aware of.
Yep. Jason, anything to add?
Yes, some of the things we look for is certainly people that are passionate about technology and that are curious, that are constantly looking to learn and want to learn and embrace new ways of doing things. But also I think it's important to be able to step back from the technology and really bridge it into, what are the questions that we're trying to answer? How can we leverage the technology to be more efficient, more effective, or engage more effectively with customers? And really think about how the technology can be applied to deliver more value to the business. So it's not just focusing on technology for technology's sake, but really focusing on the highest priority questions, issues, and business challenges that we're looking to solve, either internally across our business to become more efficient, or deliver more value to our customers. And that's really some of the things that we really strive for and look for. There's certainly been an evolution in terms of skill sets, beyond just the traditional skill sets, and more looking for engineers that have more of a full stack, a set of skills that cross the application as well as the network backgrounds and domains, but ultimately being curious, passionate, willing to learn, and being able to apply that to business-related problems is really the key for us.
Awesome, thank you. I'm going to come back to you and the comments that you were making about some of the marketing emails, and you also talked a little bit earlier about how you're using AI to support team members who might need a bit of support from a disability perspective. How are you thinking about it specifically from a marketing perspective, running campaigns, creating content, using tools within your organization, and how does that apply to someone like a developer or a SecOps person, and how they might work in concert with a marketing team on some of the tools that you're actually looking at?
So I would say we're probably a bit of a nightmare probably for some of the, because what we want to do is we want to experiment. There are so many different AI tools out there. It's not necessarily knowing which ones are the right ones, and it's not necessarily that the right one fits everybody in your team. So they all might want something else that helps them to develop in a certain way. So like I was mentioning earlier, someone might want a little bit more help and guidance when it comes to writing copy or proofing. Others might be looking at better AI tools that help them with like design. It might also be coding, because we do like HTML coding, etc., or building out website. So we all use different tools depending on the type of function. But we're bringing in, and I appreciate this, is a bit of a nightmare for anyone that's kind of in control of what systems and what applications that are coming in. But we are trying and testing those things, and the ability to be flexible is one of the things that I would say at Natilic that's making us, actually be more creative, push the boundaries more, increase our productivity, is because we've got that freedom to experiment. And I definitely would say that is without doubt.
Yep.
I'm definitely a stats girl, and I would say 100%. Like we are managing sort of about 25% increase on productivity. It's just a little bit above that, but about 25% by using AI in the last year. So definitely something that I would say continue to. If you've got an environment or you have an organization that is open to that flexibility and freedom, then make use of it, because I appreciate not every organization has quite such a flexible policy when it comes to bringing in tools.
How do you, go ahead.
But I was going to say, 2 points that you made is one about malicious actors making use of AI to make phishing more effective. 100% true. We have seen an increase in phishing and the sophistication, so that is spot on. But the other point you made about the freedom and the safety is my job in security operations is to make your job easier. So you are not a security person. I don't expect you to have all of the knowledge and the experience when it comes to security. Your job is to get your job done. And so the way I support you is creating an environment that is safe for you to make those mistakes, because if we don't allow people to make mistakes, they're not going to innovate. That's just never going to happen. You're just going to be stuck. So the way to build it effectively is to understand your requirements, understand what your team needs, and I can build an environment that works for you, and provide the additional skills training so that you can recognize the malicious actor, or often so that you don't create phishing emails yourself without realizing it, and then you're teaching people bad behaviors, right? So I think a really key part from my role is supporting the business so that they know they can do these things. They can use these tools, because the privacy team did a privacy assessment. The data is not being used to build other people's, the data is stuck in our tenant. The security is, your data is not going somewhere else as well. So knowing what these tools are and what the impact is to our data is very important. But I need to know the requirements. And so working together, building your business relationships is key. I'm not going to be able to support you if I don't know what you need. You're not going to be able to work with me if I keep saying no, right? So I think, it's just communication. That's always important.
Great. I love the advice. All right, we have just a minute left, so quick answer. For the audience who is looking to build diverse by design teams, what is one action that they can take today?
I would say for me, be aware of your unconscious biases yourselves and make sure that you take steps to overcome them so that you're not making those same decisions. And there are AI tools, things that are available that you could be utilizing to help you to do that, to make sure you're not instantly limiting yourself to a select recruitment pool, would be one of my pieces of advice.
For me, it would be challenging yourself and your leaders and team to really invest the time up front to drive a diverse candidate pool, and to really do that ahead of a need to hire, where there's just a lot of pressure to find a candidate and get them onboarded. And then the second thing I'd say is really continuing to make investments in driving awareness in terms of STEM and STEM opportunities and STEM development with the younger generation across really all socioeconomic demographics. Because as I shared in the opening, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't exposed, although a little later in my life. But I think that's really important as well.
All right, Zoe, we're out of time.
I know.
So.
I'll be really, really quick. Once you've got the people in the team, don't expect them to create the diverse culture. Support them. So
Support them.
one thing that I specifically do is I ask everybody that I manage, how do you want me to manage you? And then we have regular catch-ups to make sure that I'm being effective because they're individuals and they need to be managed in the way that works for them.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. I encourage you, there's going to be a QR code up here, so please fill it out. There's lots of resources available here on site and on demand, so please take advantage of them. Thank you all for attending.